In the days before kings ruled Israel, chaos was the norm. Everyone did what was right in their own eyes, and that meant trouble. With no strong leadership and hearts far from God, Israel fell into idolatry again and again. This time, the Midianites were their punishment. Ruthless desert raiders, they swarmed in like locusts, plundering crops, destroying villages, and leaving nothing behind. For 7 years, Israel lived in fear. They hid in caves, fled from their own farms, and watched everything they worked for get stolen. They were humiliated, hungry, and hopeless. And so, they cried out to the Lord. But this time, God didn't immediately send a warrior. Instead, he sent a prophet with a harsh truth. You have not listened to me. Israel didn't just need rescue. They needed repentance. But in a small, unassuming village called Ophrah, someone unexpected was about to become the answer to that prayer. Gideon was no hero. When we meet him, he's threshing wheat not on the threshing floor where the wind could help but hidden in a winepress, trying to hide from the Midianites. He's scared. He's small. He's trying to survive. That's when the angel of the Lord appears. And he says something that almost sounds like sarcasm. The Lord is with you, mighty warrior. Gideon looks around, confused. Warrior, him. He fires back with frustration. If the Lord is with us, why has all this happened? Where are all his wonders? Did he not bring us out of Egypt? But now, he has abandoned us to Midian. But the angel doesn't flinch. He looks Gideon in the eyes and says, "Go in the strength you have. I am sending you." Gideon isn't convinced. He's the weakest member of the weakest clan. He asks for a sign. And when fire miraculously consumes the offering he places on a rock, Gideon realizes, this is no ordinary messenger. Terrified, he thinks he will die for seeing God. But God whispers peace. Do not be afraid. You are not going to die. So Gideon builds an altar, and names it, "The Lord is Peace." But peace would come after a battle. And the war had to start at home. Before Gideon could fight Midian, he had to confront idolatry in his own family. God told him, "Tear down your father's altar to Baal. Cut down the Asherah pole next to it." This wasn't just religious obedience. It was rebellion against his whole village. So Gideon did it. At night, he obeyed in fear. When the town woke and saw the destroyed altar and the new one built to Yahweh, they were furious. They demanded his death. But Gideon's father, Joash, shocked them. He said, "If Baal is real, let Baal defend himself." And from that day on, Gideon gained a new name. Jerub-Baal. Let Baal contend with him. The fearful farmer had become a rebel with a purpose. And the Spirit of the Lord came upon him. Gideon sounded the trumpet. Tribes rallied to him. An army was forming. But doubt still crept in. Gideon needed confirmation not just once, but twice. So he laid out a fleece of wool on the ground. First, he prayed, "If you will save Israel by my hand, as you promised, then let the fleece be wet with dew, and the ground dry." The next morning, it was exactly as he asked. But that wasn't enough. He asked again, this time in reverse. "Let the fleece be dry and the ground around it soaked with dew." And once again, God answered. Was Gideon faithless? Or just human? Maybe both. But God met him where he was. He didn't shame the doubt. He confirmed the calling. Because God doesn't need perfect faith. Just willing hearts. Gideon now had 32,000 men. It was still less than the Midianite horde. But it was something. Then God said something shocking. "You have too many men. Too many." God didn't want Israel to think they won by strength. He wanted them to know it was his hand. So he told Gideon to send home anyone who was afraid. 22,000 left. Only 10,000 remained. Still too many, God said. So he led Gideon to the water, where the men were tested by how they drank. Those who lapped like dogs were sent home. Only 300 remained, from 32,000 to 300. And now, the odds were so ridiculous, so impossible, that no one could deny. If Israel won, it had to be God. Still, Gideon was afraid. So God sent him into the enemy camp at night. There, Gideon overheard a soldier telling a dream. I saw a loaf of barley bread tumble into the Midianite camp. It struck the tent with such force that the tent overturned and collapsed. The other replied, This can be nothing but the sword of Gideon. God has given Midian into his hands. At that moment, Gideon fell to his knees and worshipped. It wasn't just a sign. It was a promise. He returned to camp burning with courage. With only 300 men, Gideon launched an attack, using no swords, no arrows. Just trumpets, torches hidden in jars, and a shout, for the Lord and for Gideon. In the dead of night, they surrounded the enemy camp. They smashed their jars, raised their torches, and blasted their trumpets. The Midianites, confused and terrified, turned on each other. It was chaos, and before sunrise, it was victory. The battle didn't end in one night. Gideon and his men pursued the fleeing Midianites. But along the way, they were met with rejection. Some towns refused to give his men bread. Still, Gideon pressed on, determined to finish what God started. He captured the kings of Midian, Zebah and Zalmunna, and delivered judgment. His leadership brought peace to Israel for 40 years. But the story doesn't end in triumph. After victory, the people begged Gideon to become king. But he refused, saying, The Lord will rule over you. Yet, he made a costly mistake. He asked for gold earrings from the plunder. With that gold, he made a priestly ephod, an ornate garment meant to honor God. But Israel worshipped it, and it became a snare. Even a godly victory can lead to pride if we're not careful. Gideon had many sons, and one of them, Abimelech, would later murder his brothers and try to become king. Though Gideon started in fear, rose in faith, and saw victory by God's hand, his legacy was complicated. But still, Hebrews 11 lists him as a man of faith. Because God saw his heart, not just his mistakes. Gideon's story is not about flawless courage. It's about a fearful man who kept saying, yes, to God, even when he doubted, even when he questioned, even when it was hard. And sometimes, that's the greatest kind of faith. God doesn't need warriors. He makes them, one act of obedience at a time.